And we are live. Welcome, welcome to Omi's Production Studio. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. And the advertisement reads: in times like this, the ancestors need to be consulted. And I'm turning to the ancestors because of the calamity on the earth today and the confusion, the misrepresentation. And we know throughout history, our Black folks have been traumatized. And this is one of those times that we've been seriously traumatized by the loss of one of our heroes. And we must set the earth back in place, and we must serve those who think they have gotten over. We must serve them by letting them know that we do not stand alone in this situation, and that our dear brother's death will not be overlooked. As a matter of fact, it will be looked into. And because we are ancestral children, we must be obedient and consult the ancestors in times like this when we don't know where to turn. When we do decide to stand up in a community and act as a hero, when those who step out front in spite of all of the calamities that may fall upon themselves and their family, when they step out front to do the right thing and to represent a putent human being, then there must be some honor in that decision. It cannot be dishonored with a blatant misunderstanding for someone to lose their life over a quarrel or misunderstanding. We cannot accept that, and we will not accept that. No individual has a right to get that angry, to snatch the life from someone else because of their fears and their anger. Now, our earth has been set on course, and people all over the world are disenfranchised about the law, about the government, and about those who claim to serve us. Yes, the LAPD did act promptly in talking to Eric Holder about giving himself up. Yes, they did respond promptly. Yes, they did go to the community and search the area. We know that that did happen. But someone has set our world on topsy turvy, as usual, as they do throughout the hood. And we have accepted it and accepted the verdict and walked away and said that everything is under control now. We cannot leave it up to someone who has in the past taken advantage of our kindness and given us man made fake news. And I do say that because we can trace the history to all of the young people who have been dying in our communities at the hands of others. So I want to say to you who are troubled in heart, do not be troubled hearted. You must understand that Nipsey made his transition into ancestralship. He is now easier to reach than ever before. He is in the spirit realm, making his transition and being available to you and I. We cannot be disheartened, but we have to fight the system. And just as he indicated, if he should be taken out because of his decision to bring out the story and the documentary of Dr. Sebi, he wanted us to raise the roof. He put us on notice that if something happened to him, if he should jump off the cliff or get pushed off the cliff, then you know that it was no decision of his own. and to go after those that might have taken his life. So he wants something done about it. In other words, don't just sit there, do something. Now, I've been known to say, sit there and don't do something. We know exactly what went wrong. We know that Eric Holder did not act alone. We know this. I decided to do several readings because I wanted to know. First, I went for my numerology medium. It wasn't to the point. It didn't address what I was looking for. So I went back and consulted the oracles in a different setting in the I Ching. And I had only used the I Ching for a few times, but this time I decided to rely upon the I Chings. And it says here, a masterpiece of wisdom. The Book of Changes is one of the founding texts of the Thoth religion, more than 3,000 years old, used by the Chinese for divination. It reflects the interaction of yin and yang. The Qing answers your questions by describing the current situation, foreseeing development, and advising on the conduct to adopt in order to balance the forces and also to follow the Tahoe and the middle way. We're looking at the middle way, people, this time. And the consulting of the oracles, it says, Yang, the active symbol, represented by an unbroken line. The yin is the receptive symbol, is represented by a broken line. From these lines, yin and yang, 8 trigrams are formed, 8 figures, each consulting of 3 lines. Qing and Father, the creator, the wheel, the sky. The Qin, the elder son, arousal, difficulty, thunder. Can, the middle son, the unfavorable, danger, water. Kin, the youngest son, immovable, response, mountain. Kang, the mother, the receptive, the gift of one set, the earth. Son, the elder daughter, the sweetness, penetrations, wind. Lil, the middle daughter, the one who becomes attached to light. Tui, the youngest daughter, joy, stimulation, lake. You will now draw a figure consisting of 6 lines, a hexagram, one of the 6 figures of the Qing. It will be the response to your question. Now, I asked several questions, and I wanted to know several things about the death of Nipsey Hussle and who was involved. So it told me to add up the values of the 3 coins that I was to throw. Tails were to be worth 3 points. Heads are worth 2 points. And the total of these 3 coins could only add up to a 6, 7, 8, or 9. And after I threw my coins and added them up, and I was told to make these markings from the bottom up. I came up with the 3 markings from the bottom up. The first marking that I received was Kang. Kang was the first one that I received, and as I indicated that Kang was the middle son, the unfavorable danger waters. Then, as I went up the ladder, the next three symbols were let's see, make sure I got the right one. Was Leo. And the number that I came up with was 64. Number 64. And number 64 reads, Ouija, responsibility. Do not embark upon bold or actions. The status is difficult, but may turn out well as you are very, long as you are very careful, advance step by step, and examining the interplay of the people and forces that surround you. Think first, then act. Now, there was a caution there. It said as long as he was very careful. Very careful of what? What are we talking about here? In my ability to read the auras, that maybe Nifsky was not being very careful. He threw caution to the wind without having any security guard around him, and thinking that everyone wanted to embrace him, not thinking that he knew in the back of his mind that somebody was after him, but he threw caution to the wind, even though he was advised to be very careful in what he had to do. So we have lost our dear brother. We don't know when the time of death was scheduled for him. We do know that he wasn't engaged in any spiritual meditation or prayers that he talked about. Maybe if he had connected with Oladula Mare, maybe he could have altered the time of death. But the Creator saw fit to remove him from our present in order to give us a connection to his spirit. I think that every one of you should try to connect to him in the spirit and try to see if our dear brother can help us to solve this mystery in the spirit. Right now, we have a young man that's being held in captivity with a bond of over $70 million. I'm not sure what they asked for, but I'm just going to say somewhere up there astronomical that he can't afford. Now, what's going to happen with the trial? And if he's found sound enough to stand trial, what's going to happen? What if he isn't sound enough to stand trial? Then will he get a bye? What's going to happen? But most of all, we need to look at what are we going to do in our community. Now, the good work that Nipsey has started, we cannot let it be to naught. He has started a path of reuniting Black folks to each other. This is not a time for us to bail out and disconnect from this potential connection that we had going with Nipsey here on this plane. Enough of us have spewed out bitterness, and we have not talked about who is going to assume the reins and who will take over and who will carry this great mission. Will it be carried out? That's what we need to be asking ourselves. The mission that he was on, it wasn't completed. Dr. Sebi's story wasn't told. Will someone else be carrying it out? And this time, someone else will go to the right women who participated in Dr. Sebi's journey as he healed the world, so that they can get the clear, true story and not a false story. So things happen for a reason. Because he was off course with the ex-wife and interviewing her, maybe this time he can get on course by interviewing Maya and her daughter so that they can give the true story. But we've got problems around our community. Whenever there's someone doing good or trying to uplift us or trying to impart strong values within our community, someone doesn't like it and they take offense to it. And if it doesn't stop with Nipsey here, it's going to continue with somebody else and then somebody else. And do we have to continue to give up our leaders and to allow our leaders to fall because we have someone who doesn't like the fact that Black people are trying to lift themselves up? We have got to stop fighting amongst ourselves and trying to rule out what we believe about the government. And we've got to stop acting as if we have any ability to justify the government, because we don't. We can't even justify our own doings in our own community. Let them justify themselves. And you and your brother stay harmoniously connected and stop fighting each other, because you get up and make an announcement to support them and to solidify them, and you don't know enough about the situation. But if you go back and read the history, history will bear us out on this. It will show what they are capable of doing and what have they done in the past. Now, Nipsey was going to the police department to have a meeting to talk about things changing. They still haven't changed. They still need other representatives to go to that meeting for Nipsey and to talk about what we're demanding and what our demands are and what we'd like to see change for the people in the hood. This is a great work Nipsey started, and don't let it be finished before he ever got it started. You finish it off and take his place and interact and call a town house meeting to talk to the LA Police Department about what has gone wrong and what they are obligated to change. Don't let Nipsey's death be in vain. All this good that you talk of that he's done, do you want it to go down the drain, or do you want to turn it around for the good? But we don't realize that we have been called to be an evangelist, and now is the time for us to stop our fretting and to look to the east and to go down on our knees and to make our dear brother a martyr and be able to worship him in spirit and in truth. He is truly now an ancestor, and it's okay to erect the altar to him, because he's still here in the atmosphere and he wants to help. But he can't do that unless he has a physical body that can work with him. We have had terrible times throughout the years, and there might be terrible times up ahead, but we cannot give up the ghost, and we cannot walk away thinking that there's nothing that we can do. There are plenty of things that we can do. We know for a fact that this information that has come out by Eric Holden is not a surprise. When they said that he was a snitch, we know that there were others operating with him. We must find out who these others are, and we must press them for information. And we must see who is behind our dear brother Nipsey's death, and who wanted him dead, and why, and what did they have to gain. But we've got to stop our fighting amongst ourselves, and we've got to stop appearing to want to give credit to the government when we know in the past The government has had history upon history of things that they've done that were not acceptable to the black race. And we know this, but yet we want to defend them and we want to fight our brothers by saying that this was not a conspiracy. It's no longer a conspiracy because the cat is out the hat. It is true knowledge. So you don't have to call it a conspiracy anymore. You can call it exactly what it is. But we cannot just let a mental patient go down the drain who they'll only put in a mental institution. We've got to find out who was behind Eric Holden and who supported Eric in his doing. We must know that. We must find that out. And there are ways to find that out. But nevertheless, we're doing too much fighting and arguing amongst ourselves. We're going on these airways and we're disputing one another. And those that are in the Black movement group, come together with your brothers and sisters and try to see clearly and be able to be on one accord and stop trying to prove yourself right by going against the general population. If there's a problem with the statements that are out there, they will prove themselves to be right or wrong sooner or later. But nevertheless, we know that Eric Holden did not operate alone in this matter. And there were other constituents that worked with him. And that will soon come out in the wash. It'll probably come out sooner than later. And we will see for ourselves that there was more to this than just an angry group of boys that were fighting or young men, but someone who wanted Nipsey dead and out of the way. But we've got to realize this has happened to our black race so many times. The Willie Lynch theory, they throw us all in a bucket and they have us going at each other and fighting each other till we are not able to become effective because we've destroyed our very unity. We must maintain our unity and our solidarity. And we must maintain that there is an enemy among us. And the enemy has done everything he, she, or it can do in order to bring down the black man and the black woman. But we must purpose in our hearts that we will not fall by his gun, because God's weapons are not carnal through the pulling down of stronghold, that we will stand and we will stand strong. And God, Emmanuel, will be with us. We have seen the worst of time and the best of time. And now that this is one of the worst of time, we could not make Nipsey our savior. God had use for him somewhere else. We could not hold on to him, but we can hold on to his concepts and his teachings and his beliefs and stand on those. We're all looking for a hero somewhere. We are lacking the leadership that we need in our black communities. We all are wishing that someone believed in us more than we did ourselves. But unfortunately, Nipsey is gone and we have been left here alone, we think. But God will never leave us nor forsaken us. So we can call on God and he will be our strengthener. He will be our strong rock in a time of trouble. But we must not let the police department off. We must pressure them to bring out the truth and to bring in more evidence to point to who actually did this, because this young boy Holden did not act alone. Who was his accompanist? Who followed him? Who guided him? Who directed him? Just who were they? No one's going to make us believe that Eric operated alone in this matter. Not even the girl in the getaway car should be able to get away freely. She must be pressured and she must be questioned about her connection in this case. Now, if the police department knows something about Eric and his past history and being a snitch, and was he a snitch for the police department, all of this is going to come out. We don't have to wait for the police department to tell us. It's going to all come out. And we are going to have to be ready to determine what we're going to do when that time comes. But a large portion of us have began to see that we're wrong in our thinking. We think that these people in blue are coming to help us when in fact they have their orders too. And we must realize that we're in a real serious situation because we don't know where to turn and who to turn to, because we might be turning to the enemy for help. But we cannot continue to fight amongst ourselves and have these airways lit up. You must deactivate. What do I mean? Deactivate from some of these social medias. Remove yourself and go in a time of prayer. If there's confusion all around you, deactivate. I had to. I was not going to spend my time and my days in any environment that brought about confusion. I decided to deactivate. And I'm not lost on leave. I purposely deactivated so I can go into my prayer closet, spend more time with the Godhead, and to prepare for the things that I want to come out with substance. If you're wasting your time and giving your time to something that has no substance, then you're going to have to deactivate and remove yourself. And this is just a suggestion. I can't tell anybody what to do because it was good for me. It might not be good for you. But this land is beginning to be very corrupted and very difficult to stay here in the United States. It's very scary, and Black folks are under attack, and Black folks never know when to stand up. Always stand up for yourself and speak for the underdog, and God will be your greatest adversary. He will be there for you. But we cannot continue to be a coward for fear of what the white man is going to say, and if they think that we are possibly an enabler, or we are out here stirring up the trouble. No, Black folks are tired. They're mad. They're angry. But don't get mad. You have to understand, you don't want to get mad in a place like this. This is nowhere to be getting mad. You can get angry, but don't sin. The main thing you have to do is keep a clear head so you can talk about these things and decide what it is that you must do in order to make life much better. We've missed out on a lot of the finer things in life. Most Black people haven't had the opportunity to have any of the finer things in life. And when they finally get that opportunity, they think their whole world is going to change. And they trade off money for everything, thinking it's going to make for them a better life. I want to warn some of those informers out there, it can only make for you a sad, sad life. You cannot gain by taking someone else's lights out and thinking that you're going to live and prosper. You might be living here, but the quality of life will be definitely questionable. But it's very important that we should stand together and stand on one accord and under solidarity as we find out together how to make a better way for ourselves, how to make a better lifestyle. A lot of us are not prospering. A lot of us are barely making it. And yet others are complaining about all of the prosperity they do have. Be careful that you don't complain so much, because God will let you see a man without any legs when you're complaining about not having shoes. It's very vital that we look at ourselves and come together and have meetings. I'm not talking about on Facebook where we're cursing each other out. I'm not talking about where people are putting up these erratic pictures of themselves naked. What are we thinking about putting ourselves online naked? I am so sick and tired of seeing women's butthole on Facebook and them exploiting themselves like prostitutes. And yet we are fighting cases in court to prevent Bill Cosby from going to jail, but yet we still got women out here disrobing themselves, hanging out on Facebook naked. What is wrong with us? What has happened to us? You know, our dear brother Nipsey had his hands full with trying to rehabilitate his own black people. He had his hands full. I can see it in his eyes. He was very weary and tired because people, problems can get the best of you. And especially black people who keep going back to the same problem over and over and over again. We're not mentally ill, and we must act with conscience, and we must act with some type of Iwa Paley, good character and good conduct. That's why I said we all have to turn ourselves to African faith. So we have a standard that we're lifting up. All of us are not lifting up a standard. Some of us are doing everything we think we're big and bad enough to do, and we are not looking at the standards and the criteria that God has given us to use our measure of faith to act accordingly. We have some people that are acting outside of themselves worse than our slave masters. And they're carrying on all in the name of a dollar bill, y'all. And this has got to stop. We have got to take our family aside and make a deal with them that they can't refuse, because they're acting out and they're exploiting themselves to hurt our community. We must take them aside and have a talk with them. Just like Nipsey attempted to do with Eric. He should have brought him inside and set him down and had a talk with him and brought his congregation of people to speak to him, to speak life into that dead soul. Maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't be a walking dead man now. How is it that you're gonna let somebody that you're supposed to be snitching for tell you to take somebody else's life? Didn't he know upon taking someone else's life, his life would be diminishing slowly but surely? Didn't he realize that he could not bring that man back? And did he realize he would never be able to walk the face of this earth again amongst his own black people? What a trade-off, all in the name of some money or somebody giving you some status. What could they possibly have promised him? It sure in the heck wasn't protection, because they can't protect him from the mob that would have taken him over and took him out. And they still can't protect him. He is a dead man on the streets, and he's sure to die in the prisons. So he could not think straight enough to choose from the two evils. He could not think straight enough. While Nipsey had him in his presence, he should have brought him in to chastise him like a little child. We don't know the state of mind that this man was in, and we sure in the heck don't know if he can stand trial. And if he can't, will he get away free? Will they allow him to walk? What is going to happen? And ladies and gentlemen, I fear for our African community. I fear for them. This is the very thing that will set off a civil war. The boiling point is boiling, and it's about to reach a boiling point where there'll be a fight in the streets that they won't be able to put out, and fires all over the place that will keep blazing until they have to bring the National Guards in. We'll call for them just to give us some peace on the streets. This is a dangerous thing, and it was foretold of that it could come at any given time. And we know that in the streets of LA, there has been many riots and many fights that were not containable. Now we're looking at a fight of the Civil War that will not be attainable once the information is released, and we have not heard the full counsel yet. The information has not completely been given out yet. We're still waiting for the verdict and who was behind Eric Holden. That's when the fight is going to start. And I can see it as plain as day in the aura, in the environment. I don't need a medium to read this because sometimes they can be off. But what I do know is our dear brother Nipsey knew his life was coming to an end. He foretold of it. And he even told you that if his life was taken because of him wanting to create this documentary, then to go after that and raise hell. He knew that this could possibly cost him his life. And he actually saw it in the making. Some of us right now don't know what to do. And we're hoping that this thing could boil over. But before it boils over, it's going to reach a boiling point. And we're all going to experience it no matter where we are geographically. We're all going to experience the revolution taking place. And it will be televised unless we bring this thing in order. Unless people unite to talk about our inadequacy, to speak to the government about what they've done to us in the past, and remind them that we have not forgotten of the treaties that they have broken. We have not forgotten of the fact that they said that slavery was over, except when you were indubitably convicted of a crime. Now, every black person is guilty. 1 out of 9 is guilty and is placed in jail. So it's just like putting us back into slavery. We've been dealt a lie, and the government hasn't sat down and dealt the cards straight to us in a long, long time. It's time that they come to the tables and come clean with us. The majority of us don't have faith in the government anymore. The majority of us don't want to trust the government anymore. And the majority of us don't want the food stamps anymore. We certainly don't want the cheese and the surplus food. We don't want it. And we don't want the medicines that they intend to give us, that they claim that's going to make us well. We can't trust anymore. Government, what must you do to make us have faith in you? What must you do to come clean, to let us know that you are truly backing us? So many people have had bouts with the government, them not paying them their just due, them violating an order to pay a settlement that they won't pay, them that are let people walk away empty-handed that they knew they were supposed to pay and make whole. Why can't the government do what is necessary and required of it so that we will have faith again, so we can trust again? There's a lot of people want to believe in the government. They want to believe in spite of what they see, and they want to stand with the government and be a part of this United States of America. But we keep getting whippings after whippings after whippings, and you're destroying our people, so we lose the hope that we would have. How can we regain this hope again? What must we do? We have taken our athletes and perform for you to the point where they entertain you on a regular basis. We have created our entertainers to go on stage and they dance for you and they sing for you. We have allowed the best of our women to become anchor women for you to the point where they're on the manumission trying to satisfy you, and all in the name of offering up their own brothers and sisters. And we've given you our best anchor women. We've even been maids and allowed ourselves to serve you without poisoning you or destroying you. And we've come clean and we've set tables before you and fed you and your children. We have loved you in spite of you not loving us. We have even loved your children and breastfed your children and made sure that they grew fat and strong, and we put our spirits in them. What more can we do? What are you asking from us, government? And what must you do to change your ways? What can you do to make us believe in you, that there is some hope? A lot of us want to believe in you. A lot of us want to stand with you, with our country, but we cannot do this when we see apprehension, when we see false reports, when we see people being abused who have been in the prison system, when we see you time and time again sending the wrong man up the river and incarcerating them. What can we do? Or what must you do to demonstrate that you're going to make a change? I don't want to see another person on these airways fussing and fighting about how we have got to put our faith in the governments and believe in them. I don't want to see another African American going to blows with another one talking about how we don't realize it's black on black crime. We've been knowing that for a long, long time. But be careful that you don't make the mistake of thinking that black on black crime is always going to be the deal of the day. Some of us have risen to our consciousness and our sound mind, and some of us have come away from the Willie Lynch theory, and some of us are acting on our intuition and not on impulse. A lot of us, eyes have been opened and we are woke now. A lot of us are not asleep. And don't make the mistake of thinking that all of us are asleep and that we're all sleepwalking and unconscious. We are conscious beings who are woke now. We know who we are fighting up against. We know who the enemy is. And it's not the enemy from within. So quit telling yourself it's black on black crime and it's you who are fighting your brother. Quit telling yourself that. We are too hooked on a dollar bill. If someone came to us and promised us money, we would lay our own mother out in the casket, all in the name of money. What kind of people are we turning out to be? What kind of people are we going to have to live with? Can we live with ourselves when we find out that we are devastatingly giving in all in the name of getting rich and getting some royalty? Well, here's a tip for you to get some royalty. You better get your psychic right. You better get your mind frame right, because God is coming to judge your character. Your character is on trial now. The world is looking at our character and they think we're good for nothing if we destroy our own brothers and the best that we have to give. Every time they want to kill one of us, they put us up to do it. When they stand behind the rock and hide it, and they make the world think that we are vindictively destroying ourselves when it's not us. Why do we have to put ourselves in that position where we work together with criminals? Why can't we bow out? Why can't we let confusion pass us by? Why can't we say no? Just say no. God will give you some money. You don't have to give up your life and your character, all in the name of a few dollars that you'll never get to spend. Why are so many of us falling prey to someone giving us money all in the name of depreciating our character? Now, this young man probably wants to commit death because he cannot live with himself. Eric Holder probably cannot even sit with himself for a moment, for hating himself and self-intimidating himself for what he's done to not only his people, but himself. Who can make you hate yourself that much? Is it that you're going to get rich and you're going to be protected and they're going to give you some type of ability to leave town? No, it'll never work. Eventually, you've got to face yourself. And you got to live with yourself. Your conscience can eat you up more so than any man or woman can. You have to walk and sleep and live with your conscience. The question is, can you do that? Can you stay with your conscience? And can you be in the same room with your conscience? And if you cannot, you're a dead man anyway. I am so disgusted at our people turning on each other and themselves. Yes, I know Eric Holden did not act alone, and there was a bigger organization behind him. But why does such a little man get involved with somebody like this, or in bed with somebody like this, that he could never recoup from being with? Who told this man, a mental patient, that he could go free? He was always able to go free as long as he cleared his mind. But now his mind is going to be more confused, and there's not enough medicine to help bring his sanity back. Not enough medicine in the mental institution. Not enough protection from the police department to protect him from his own mind. We have become lower and lower in our values. We must give up these material things. We must look at a more simpler life, a more wholesome life, one where we can keep our bodies healthy and our minds on a right conscious plane. But we have come to a point where now people are looking at us as if we're criminals, and we're not criminals. We will not take that characteristics of being criminalistic, and we will not take on the spirit of being devastatedly destroying ourselves. That will have to turn around. And we still have some time left to maybe convince the people from the hood that they're just as good as the people that live in a gated community. And you gated community people who are bougie people, who are trying to just keep the peace and who don't want to address real issues, you need to sit down somewhere, because you're not going through all the turmoil that the inner city people are going through. And you can't give the government more credit than what he or she is worth, because you don't live in the hood and you don't know. Now it's time for us to hear the voices of those who have been contaminated, who have been beaten down, who have been trodden down, those who have been going without for so long, living beneath their standard, those who have been living in a basement apartment life. It's time for those to give us their opinions so we know really what's going on in the hood. They have the temperature of the hood and what's going on. But we can help if we have more platforms, not on Facebook, more platforms where we could come together in a Zoom meeting to talk about solution. I am solution oriented. I don't want to hear any more devastating stories. My question is, what are we going to do about it? It's time to act now. It's time out for going off and shooting off at the mouth about what the problem is. It's time to talk about what solutions are we going to put in place. What solutions are we going to put in place? Everybody has an opinion. But can you roll your sleeves up and get to work? Can you roll your sleeves up and make a difference? I'm sure if Nipsey was here, Nipsey Hussle would have rolled his sleeves up and say, let's get to work. He was solution oriented. And that's what he would have wanted us to be, solution oriented. And if you haven't come up with the solution, you need to come up with one today. And I'm not going to shed any more tears over this, because I know we could do better. I fear for Nipsey's family, and I send my condolences to him. And the tears that I shedded for Nipsey, I shed it for the United States of America, because we are headed down a path that we won't be able to come back. And this path, this time, is going to allow for the trucks to come in and the fights to take place. Another civil war. My question is, will you be ready when the revolution comes? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great afternoon. Odabo.